Never mind. Okay, where was I? Oh, yeah. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Tom's Guitar Show. I'm Tom. They call me Guitar Tom because I'm often seen with a guitar, and they used to call me on the phone. We don't really do that anymore. We don't care anymore, you know. I mean, there's a lav mic, but there's no phone. That's okay.
On the other hand, we do have a Twitter address.
That's true. You could tweet. You could stop by and leave a note at the desk at PATV here. But in any case, actually, I'm, yeah. So, okay, what am I saying? Oh, yeah, okay. Guitar Tom, studying with a guitar. People call me, they ask me questions. I'm catching up here.
Well, what's your show about, Tom?
It's about an hour. And it's about guitars, guitar players, guitar players, guitar playing, and all things guitaristic. How's that? Did I get it, spit it out?
Did I throw you off, or did our control room staff coming through do it?
It's like, our highly efficient, professional crew here is like, anyway, never mind. Okay. But anyway, so we entertain questions about the care and feeding of your guitar, what kind of guitar is right for you, how to play a guitar. That's a good one, I think. Yeah. Things like related topics, the guitarrón, the guitarra, the sitar, chicholes, lutes, uds, vihuelas, banjos, balalaikas, bazookies, bajos, sextos, tiples, bandurias, bandolins, and mandolins, mandocellos, and manjos, or banjolins. I don't know.
Xylophones and zithers?
Yeah, pipe organs, piccolos, ocarinas and accordions, harmoniums, harpsichords, and harmonicas.
Jews harps and Irish harps?
That's fine with me, man. I'm broad-minded. I take pianos and trombones and trombomarinas and timbales and timpani and anything you can make music with. Bassoons and bass drums. There's an instrument called the snoot flute. Also, the nose flute, have you seen those? You put it up to your nose.
I don't know if I've ever seen one. I've heard that before.
Yeah, I had one, and I knew a guy who told me he was a virtuoso on the snoot flute. And he was the one to call it a snoot flute instead of a nose flute, but it's kind of ridiculous. It sounds like you're whistling. It has a fipple in it, like a recorder or a penny whistle, like a whistle, you know. And you just put it up against your nose and exhale through your nose, and then how big the cavity of your mouth is. Yeah. Anyway. We could talk about that too, but or whatever. Politics, world events, your own personality problems. Fine. Keep it clean though. This is a family show. All right.
Speaking of guitars, tell us about that one.
This is Gibson. Now, I was telling you some of my story. I have these boring stories that I tell you, and people suffer through this quite a bit with me, but. So 4th of July, I wanted to get out of the house, and I don't really like hang around at the mall or thing, and don't hang around bars.
Well, there's no guitar shop in the mall.
That's right, not anymore. So I went up to the. It's a sort of a mall, strip mall. I went up to the Guitar Center in the far reaches of northern Cedar Rapids. You could see the Marion border from their back loading dock, I'm sure, but. Anyway, so I went there, and I was looking for something cheap, like a little amplifier I could use for, as a backup, in case something went wrong with my equipment at the Tuscan Moon. So I would, leave that in Warren's office. They didn't have anything like what I was looking for. I wanted something used and older that still worked fine. And I looked at the other guitars and stuff, and there's a rock and roll guitar that's kind of interesting to me, but I have a lot of rock and roll guitars I try to play jazz on. So I went in the acoustic guitar room, and that's when I got in trouble. I saw this thing in among a bunch of Epiphones and Washburns. Epiphones, of course, used to be made in Kalamazoo, Michigan, but now they're all made in China. That's the import line of Gibson. They're okay, but they're cheap, And then the Washburns used to be old Chicago line, but they're also made in, China or Indonesia. And but in among all those, on the end, was this thing. This is a Gibson acoustic here. And the thing that's unique about it, in some ways, I should look it up the model number, is that it's all made with North American woods. Now, generally, fingerboards are either rosewood or from like Indian rosewood, or ebony from Africa. But this is actually walnut, like black walnut. The sides and back are usually, like Honduras mahogany, Indian rosewood, or if you really lay out the bucks, Brazilian rosewood, which is hard to get. It has to have been cut down before a certain date, or else you get seized by Fish and Wildlife or whatever, whoever it is. And the back and sides in this thing are walnut also. And the neck, as you can see, which is usually like Honduras mahogany, is maple. This is a North American guitar made in Bozeman, Montana. That's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Bozeman. And as I was telling you, I was actually made in Missoula, Montana, many years ago. I moved down here to the flatlands as an infant, first to Mount Vernon and then to Iowa City, back in the olden days. But I'm from Montana originally. I was born there. And so this thing here is actually a very nice guitar. And the thing about I really enjoy this maple neck, and so I bankrupted myself, and not only did I use all the cash I had, but I maxed out my gear card at the Guitar Center. It's like a credit card. But the thing about that is they give you 3 years with no interest. So half of what I spent on this, or actually more than half of what I spent on this, I have to pay off in 3 years. So it's not too bad. And this wasn't actually all that expensive compared to some. Anyway, I quite like this. I was looking for something just like this. I didn't think I'd find it in Gibson, but I think the whole thing about using more common, easy to get woods from North America is, the thing is that there's this thing about rare woods that people are going crazy over in expensive guitars, and there's less and less of a supply of these things. So, like there's one Fender that I was looking at, a Telecaster, special edition one, for a $2,000 guitar, really, but it's made out of mahogany, but it was a Hurricane Hugo or something. It knocked down a bunch of trees, in Central America someplace, and so these trees, which are just going to rot on the forest floor, and people say, well, let them rot on the forest floor. That's nature's way, And they say, yeah, but, we could build guitars out of them. Yeah. So they build things out, reclaimed wood. And I happen to know a guy who when he's from Russia, when he was in Russia, he somehow managed to, purloin some beams that were some old building that was being torn down. Yeah. Like really, really old building. These beams are made out of this really high-grade Siberian spruce. Huh. And that makes a really good tone wood for soundboards. Yeah. This is Sitka spruce. This is some, North American. So basically, this is made out of trees that grow in Montana. Yeah. And it sounds great. So I say, yeah, good. Anyway, never mind. That's my story.
Should we mention where you'll be playing this weekend?
Well, on Thursday, I'm playing at the Northside Bistro here in Iowa City. That's a new gig for me. It's a regular gig for me now. I went there, played one, and they decided I want me back every week. So I'm going to be there almost every week, except once a month we're going to have a board meeting. Although not this month because we're kind of taking a hiatus. As you know, I'm on the governing board of this institution. I show up,
That being PATV,
Yeah, PATV.
your neighborhood network.
Yeah, neighborhood network. I've been here for so long they made me a board member. So, anyway,
Yes. Oh,
yeah. So I'm there on Thursday. It's 6, and I'll play till 9 or so. Sorry. And then on Friday and Saturday, I'll be at the Tuscan Moon at the beautiful downtown Kelowna, Iowa, about 20 miles south of here. Easy to find. You can get it on either Highway 22 or Highway 1. Very easy to find. If you're watching this on...
our control booth is asking us to pass along a message.
what's that?
There's a tornado warning.
Oh,
It's Oxford now and heading northeast toward Solon in that area. So people should have their radio going in the background to hear where the tornado is.
yeah. Boy. Well, I hope nobody gets hurt. Yeah. A warning means there's a tornado there. I mean, it's not a watch, it's a warning.
Our director tells me it has been there. There has been one spotted on the ground.
Okay. Somewhere near Oxford heading towards Solon.
Yeah.
Well, one would assume they will miss us here, but or anybody in the viewing area. We don't extend beyond Coralville, I think, although...
Does North Liberty get us?
I don't...
North Liberty and Coralville are in the warning area.
Okay, well, Coralville for sure. Iowa City is not, or is it? Iowa City is not, okay. So for those of you Coralvillians who are watching, particularly those who might be watching in a motel north of the interstate, maybe you better know where to go in case. Yeah, it's all part of the fun of living around here. Not much danger of earthquakes, although there's always some, but tornadoes are your... That and frostbite seasonally. Okay.
Anyway, about your appearances.
Well, yeah, okay, well, Tuscan Moon, Friday and Saturday. I've been trying to get there a little earlier than usual. I usually got there at 6:30. I was supposed to start at 6, so I'd always be about half an hour late, so they'd know I was a real guitar player. I mean, if I were a poser, I'd show up early. But no, I'm really a guitar
On time and sober.
Yeah. Well, I'm a little late but sober, so I think I'm ahead of the game.
Yeah.
And I don't have and I think everybody knows what my personal problems are. These do not interfere with my ability to perform on the guitar. I mean, like I don't have a substance abuse problem, and I don't have like these personality problems which cause me to cause a lot of trouble in public. My problem is gas. Guitar acquisition syndrome. So I have to, and I've got a new thing going there. I'm not talking too much. I should be playing guitar, but we have this hollow body guitar. I've had it on the show a few times over the years. It's a Dean Palomino Solo, so it's actually relatively inexpensive, like $600 hollow body jazz guitar with one what they call floating pickup here at the end of the fingerboard. So it's not attached to the top of the guitar at all. It's actually screwed into the end of the fingerboard, so it doesn't make contact with the top. Mini humbucker, small golden pickup. And most times I plug it into amplifier. At home it hums really bad. I've got a real interference problem. And I don't really like the sound I get out of it with most amps. It's pretty good, but not... But anyway, I had this other amp, which I've had in the show a few times, and I tried to sell it. I had it on consignment over at the Musicians Pro Shop for a couple of months. It's a Roland JC40 jazz chorus, and it's kind of a reissue of a 70s vintage Roland jazz guitar amp. I mean, Roland, of course, is a Japanese company, although it's probably made in China. But and I didn't like the sound I got with that when I plugged in a Telecaster, Stratocaster, or Les Paul. But I was getting a pretty good sound with this, this jazz guitar in there. But the thing is, the amp hisses. It hisses in my little room, right? Well, anyway, so on a dare with myself, I took that to the Tuscan Moon and plugged it in. I couldn't hear the hiss when I was outdoors, out in the patio. I brought all my noise reduction stuff, I didn't need it. There was no hum out there. And it sounded really good to me. But not only did it sound good to me, it sounded good to people far away. This is kind of a bigger amp with 2 speakers, stereo. So a little bit of chorus, a little bit of reverb, and this stereo solid state sound. And of course, I favor old-fashioned tube amps, but this is, okay. So everybody said, I love that. Everybody really loved this thing. So now my new Tuscan Moon thing, so not only have I got my jazz guitar thing going out there, because this was during Jazz Fest. So we had our own Kelowna Jazz Fest. This is like weekend before this last one here. But that's my new sound. So we had the Kelowna Jazz Fest with just me with a hollow body guitar. And then I got so excited by this, I have a stool that I meant to take there for a long time. So I have a new kind of perch. It's a little bit higher up than the other stool and much more comfortable. I have and I have a set of lights because Warren keeps building things. So what he built at the end of the pergola there made it impossible to hang the lights like we did last year because we had these red, yellow, and blue lights. Yeah. So now I have a little light fixture here that puts lights on me. So I've got the nightclub lights and my jazz guitar sound with the Roland JC40 amp and my nice comfortable like higher up perch. And it's different anyway. Yeah. So, things are going pretty well in Kelowna. I hope it doesn't rain. If it rains, on the weekend, I have
then you got to go indoors.
Yeah, but then I got to have some other way. That's kind of why I want a little amp that I could put in there in case. So, because I can't put that great big amp in that smaller dining room. And I don't even know if my stool will fit. So, anyway, it's a long way around. Yeah. Telling you all my little stories.
Well, as I said, there's always the ukulele.
Yeah, I've done that there before, and Warren is one of the owners said, I think I like the guitar better. So I had my, the ukulele to pick up, and I was going, doing like. I was doing that sort of stuff, but anyway, so
not the look he wanted.
No. On I think it was Halloween though. I have an electric banjo, so I wore my overalls, and I actually have 3 pairs of overalls. This is the way you should dress in Iowa. That's what they think you look like on the coasts if you're from Iowa. So I was. But I went in there dressed with overalls and a plaid flannel shirt, and I played a banjo. But I don't think people noticed. It was not that unusual to see somebody with overalls in an area like that. Yeah. It wasn't. Years ago, I was doing what I thought was a humorous sketch, and I went into West Music in Coralville dressed in my full regalia. I had this character I was playing. I was calling him George Schnickelfritz, but anyway, it was just it was a whim. But like a person from Iowa should look like. And they laughed and laughed and laughed. And but that means.
Sounds like a good German name, like you could have come up from Kelowna.
Yeah, good German name. I've got a good German name. Anyway, but and then I did another thing. We went out and my buddy Raimundo and I went out and we blasted a guitar with a 12-gauge shotgun, a pheasant gun, and it blew up and everything like that out in a cornfield. But I was dressed in complete George Schnickelfritz regalia. And he was sort of doing this sort of Mexican time. You got I forget what they call it, but it's kind of a thing. It's like a blanket with a hole in it. It's not a poncho, but it's something.
Serape?
Yeah, serape or something like that, yeah. So, but being Raimundo, he wanted to stop in to have a beer on the way back. So we went to the Hills Tap, which was on the way back from the farm where we blew up the guitar. And I walked in with my full George Schnickelfritz outfit, which is, overalls, bib overalls with a red flannel shirt and a red flannel hat. Yeah. Not unlike the hat that Red Green wore on his show, but only was plaid. And I actually got it in northern Minnesota. So I went in dressed like that, and he went in with his serape and everything like that to get a beer. And nobody looked twice. Yeah. We didn't look like, out of place. I looked like a regular. Just a couple guys, some guy dressed in overalls and the plaid walks in with a Mexican.
Our weather report reminds me of what people out west think too. They all seem to think we have a tornado go through the backyard about every other day here.
Right. Well, probably, but they, you know.
And I say, what about your earthquakes?
Well, I lived out there too. I had I had this little TV set, little portable, TV that I had, and before the flat screens, and it went across my dresser and fell into the wastebasket at the end of my dresser. This little room I lived in San Francisco. People were screaming all over. So I figured, it could be it, but no, it wasn't. So anyway, so this is my Gibson. It's a Gibson. It plays. It's a good guitar. No, that's not a good guitar. It's a great guitar. It's just not a spectacular guitar. It's just a really comfortable, easy guitar to play. Not getting as much bass out of it as I want, though. Maybe I'm just greedy. Hang on, I'm just going to turn this down a little bit there. I've got these things here. I got to see. I got a capo and a tuner. I didn't used to believe in these electronic tuners. Yeah, I believe they exist, but I didn't. But then I started using them well, it all started with me playing I got one. I was going to use it as a mute button. I hear thunder. Thunder and lightning. I got one to use as a mute button, one of the pedal for like electric guitar. And then I was in a noisy room and I used it to tune with. So that's okay, yeah. And then I noticed that I was having trouble tuning my guitar in a my acoustic guitar in a crowded room. So I got one of these clip-on kinds on a whim. Started using it. And now I've been collecting them and using them all the time. This one was on a clearance sale for $5. And you know what they say, a bargain is an item you can't use at a price you can't resist. So anyway, so I yawning again. I saw somebody. Okay. Gerardo was yawning out there, and now I caught it. Okay. What I wanted to do, though, not speaking of tuners, but here, I'll just clip this onto my. I've never capoed this guitar. I don't usually use capos, but one thing I do like is it just changes the key. Now, of course, I can play up the neck of the guitar and I can transpose things into other keys. I don't really need a capo as much as some people might, but there's a creature called an alto guitar, which is like in Mexico, it's called a requinto guitar. It's a guitar that's shorter and smaller, and it's these notes. As in, it's it's like a guitar with a capo, which is short for a capadasto. A capo, like a cap, at the it's from the Spanish word capadasto. So an alto guitar is like a regular guitar with a capo at the 5th fret. It's a higher pitched, smaller guitar. So I learned about these things. There's also a thing called a terz guitar, which is from the early 19th century. That's like a guitar with a capo on the third fret. And there are different sized guitars. Of course, the baritone guitar is well known among the various rockers because there's the lower pitch. It's like, longer. It's as much lower than the regular guitar, which is also a tenor guitar. The regular guitar is a tenor, basically. The alto guitar is up here. The baritone is like the same thing, only the other, just same direction down, lower. And I don't actually have one right now. I've had two baritone guitars, and I like the idea, but they were both kind of cheap ones. I've got these champagne tastes, you see, and never mind. Anyway, but I have a really cheap requinto guitar too, hanging on the wall at home. It's from Mexico, and it's pretty good it was really inexpensive. It's a mariachi thing, But anyway, so I like the sometimes having something like this, and I also will confess that the Pro Shop has placed another gold tone order. It's a banjo and other mandolins and guitar company, mostly banjos is what they specialize in, but they have something called the 12-string mandolin. And what it is a little bit bigger than a mandolin. It's like built on a mandola platform, shall we say. It has 12 strings, tuned in octaves like a 12-string guitar. So it's like a 12-string guitar, but it's this high. It's a little tinkly high thing with lots of shimmering notes. I played one for well over 5 minutes, maybe 6. I said, yeah, get me one. Well, it's going to be 60 days, they said, at the beginning of June. So I better save up for that one. I can hardly wait. And it has a pickup in it, too.
The kids you've had on when you've had your students on, a lot of them have guitars that are a lot smaller than what you play. Are they higher pitched because they're smaller?
Normally they're the same pitch. There are they're normally the same pitch. There's schools of thought with having,
because the strings are shorter, right?
Yeah, but they're just specially designed for the smaller guitars, and they're low tension. So I'm hoping to have young Felix on again. He's a young fellow. He has a very small guitar, and he's actually starting to outgrow it. Yeah, the child guitars, and there are some that are tuned higher, but usually we don't do that. So it's the same. But the thing is, okay, what makes a guitar? It's the length of the string, makes it pitch.
Yeah.
How thick the string is, what it's made out of, and how tight it is. So, you can tighten up a string, tune it up, go higher. Beyond a certain point, you'll really mess up your guitar, though. You break the string, but if you break a string, so what? You can get like a set of strings for like $7, but if you rip up the bridge or break your bracing or something, you're in trouble. But anyway, so you can get denser materials. So, for instance, a nylon string guitar, the classical or the Spanish guitar, has these nylon strings. Used to be gut. It's soft, so they're much thicker than these wires here. But also, even though they're much thicker, they're lower tension. It's like a classical guitar has a lot less tension on the neck than a steel string guitar. And electric guitars, people tend to, I tend to do pretty hefty strings on them, but you can get really skinny strings for an electric guitar. They're low tension because they're just skinny little wires. So as I say, it's the length of this string, which is why I put this capo here. So I have this guitar, instead of what it was before, or how tight it is, so you can just tune it. The density of the material the string is made out of. These are steel. Yeah. These are bronze wound steel wires here. So this is bronze wire wrapped around a steel core. So it's like one of these plain steel strings, only has a brass wire wrapped around it. So how thick it is, how dense the material is, nylon versus steel, how long it is, those are the things. So tension, anyway. So yeah, a lot of times the little kid guitars have much thicker strings. They're big, soft, thick strings. Yeah. And as an aside, before I start playing this thing, I'll tell you the bass ukulele, which is kind of popular right now, which is basically not too much bigger than a baritone ukulele, but it plays the same notes as a great big string bass or a bass guitar, this little thing. They have silicon strings. They're like big floppy rubber bands. And with these big floppy, kind of low tension, very thick, soft silicon like rubbery strings, they produce the same note. There's this full-size string bass. The bull fiddle, bull like a bull moose.
Bull ukulele.
Yeah, yeah. That's what we should call it. I never thought of that. Yeah, we were. I'm putting together a thing. I'm hoping like in maybe August, maybe the end, late this month, or maybe in August, I'll have the group we call the Fretful Trio, and it's Donna who's been on the show many times, and is now doing cat shows and very popular around here. Doing shows about cats up for adoption at the animal shelter, and then Ed who is he's a magistrate actually now. He's a
I'll have to wear my No Cats T-shirt in.
Well, I don't know, man. It might make you unpopular, but. Anyway, so the three of us, so it's ukulele, mandolin, and big fat 12-string guitar. But we were doing Heard Through the Grapevine, which was one that Donna wanted to do. Boom, 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 boom. There's a bass part in there. It's Motown. Without the bass.
I remember when the California Raisins sang that.
Yeah. Was that for the Raisins or is it Fruit of the Loom of underwear or something?
No, they were selling, I guess they were selling raisins.
Oh, okay.
I have to look them up one of these times. I don't remember. I know the California Raisins sang I Heard It Through the Grapevine.
Yeah. I remember that too. I remember people objecting because it's a song about how a man ain't supposed to cry. It's like I heard it through the grapevine that we found somebody else. And he's very depressed about it, and of course, it's like this loss of love song, deeply emotional. Now you're singing about raisins or something. I don't know. But oh well. Anyway. There's a bass part in that, and toying the idea with me playing I have a string bass, of course, right? I mean, boom, boom, boom. I have.
Well, you've had it on the show before.
Yeah, I've played bass on the show. I'll do it again someday. It's just I got to use my wife's car because I can't really get it in my sedan. Got the little Honda Fit. Yeah. It's okay as long as you don't shift into the low gear because it's the scroll sits right there by the gear shift, so you can only anyway. That's the problem with string basses. Where do you hide the body? Yeah. Anyway, this is
like George Romney's dog. Strap it to the roof.
That's right.
Or Mitt Romney's.
Mittens. Yeah. See, he loves it up there. Right. Anyway.
They probably do. Every time you see a dog in a car, he's got his head out the window.
There was a Far Side cartoon of a bus full of dogs. And all of them, including the driver, as a dog, had their head out the window. It's like, anyway, but I got to play the guitar. But I was telling you these stories. Like a long time ago, I used to I had a cat and a dog, and the cat, he'd do his own thing basically, and the dog would always go with me. But sometimes the cat wanted to come along too. So he'd get in the car. He had no problem with that. He'd come along. Yeah. But one time I was going to the Robo Wash, the car wash.
Yeah.
And I'd had the dog at the car wash many times. He like, oh, that's weird. I was like, oh, that's weird. It's like being a big rainstorm, just looking around, The cat didn't like it at all. Yeah. The cat kind of climbed up through the dashboard into the glove compartment, and I tried to get him out. I forget how we eventually got him out, but I tried to open it up, and it wouldn't open because he was, the entire glove compartment was
blocking it,
full of cat, and he didn't like that at all. It was one of those moments. I shouldn't have, I should have put off my car wash date, to accommodate the cat. But
the cats my wife has now, neither one of them likes to get in the car at all. And when we had dogs, anytime you got in the car, they wanted in there too.
Of course, they want to go along with you. Yeah. My dog, he's a big water dog, 100-pound Springer Lab mix, long. He looked like a golden retriever, kind of only with a black and white motif, white paws and white underside, and half a snout was white. And okay. Anyway, so he wanted to go swimming, and whatever, some swamp with duckweed, and then you got your dog, who stinks, and a lot of dirty water can get like soaked up in that fur,
Yes.
Feathers.
And then your car's upholstery and.
Yeah, well, it's all carpeting in the back. I had a station wagon with a seat down, so I had a big, doghouse back there. And, oh well. Or it'd be in the winter, and it'd be like a little patch of open water in the river. You jump in there. I don't know if I could be able to save you, but somehow I'd be okay. I don't know.
Back in the late 60s and early 70s, I drove pickup trucks for a while, which was a lot handier for dirty dogs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but you put them in the back, and sometimes they fall out, and I don't know.
I had toppers on them.
Oh, okay. I know a guy whose dog fell out the back of his truck and required all this surgery for broken bones and stuff. And I guess she's all right after a while. But I think his vet bills cost as much as the pickup truck. But anyway. Finally got around to playing it. So that was one of my compositions from a long time ago. I had a fairly advanced student who said that was like the loneliest sounding thing he'd ever heard. So that was I had my 7 love songs that I wrote, and that was number 7. But at the same time, I thought there's all this mushy stuff. I got to write something else, so I wrote 5 lugubrious sketches. I was thinking about sketches, and think I forgot that part there. Yeah. I forgot that part. Huh. I have to listen to it again. It's been a long time. Sorry, I'm just going through my distant memories. I've been doing this a long time. You know? I didn't actually get a chance to play guitar until 1967. So I first got to pick one up. I was a mere lad at the time, though. But I'd been playing mandolin for 2 years by then, and I'd been playing the violin for 4. But I didn't get my own guitar until I was 11. Now, I had begged for a guitar for Christmas every year since I was 4. But then when I was 11, they finally relented. They thought, I doesn't really want a guitar, right? Besides, they didn't want me to sound like a Kingston Trio or the Rolling Stones or something like that. But I wanted to sound like Segovia. Anyway, classical guitar is not for everybody, evidently. And one of my many part-time jobs I have teaching up there at Coe College, the guy actually retired. I think they downsized him. The librarian, the music library guy, has been there for like over 40 years behind that counter. But we were talking about classical guitar because they have a little section in the library, their music library, for classical guitar. That's what my job is supposed to be, to teach classical guitar. Even though I teach like Justin Bieber songs to Japanese exchange students, but that's, you got to do what you have to do, right? I mean, So, but anyway, he said that classical guitar was very popular, like in the 70s, in the early 80s, but now it's not nearly so common. And his feeling was the reason for that was it's really hard to play. So that was what he thought, anyway.
Well, that's probably true. Our old line, what's the difference between a jazz guitarist and a rock and roll guitarist?
Yeah. So a rock guitar player plays 3 chords in front of thousands of people, and jazz guitar player plays thousands of chords in front of 3 people. Right? Yeah. Actually, I should be worried about this because the thing I'm doing at Tuscan Moon is kind of like the lighter side of jazz. Yeah. You hear there's the KCCK, the public radio station, jazz station out of Kirkwood Community College. Yeah. They have the lighter side of jazz, But I guess, I don't know if the music police would say that I'm really a jazz guitar player, but I play things that would certainly sound like jazz on something that's a jazz guitar through a jazz amp. So people are going to think I'm a jazz guitar player, in which case, because I was talking to Warren, they used to have jazz bands, but see, jazz players are used to getting paid almost nothing. Like your bar tab ends up being higher than your what you get paid. Well, for me, that'd be a disaster because I don't even drink. Yeah. So, 2 iced teas. Wow. Yeah. And I owe you money? I owe you $50 and I just had 2 iced teas? But as a classical guitarist going astray, which is how I identify, I actually get, I get paid sometimes, I mean, I don't know. And I got that estimated tax. And anyway, never mind. So classical guitar you can actually get paid for because, people say they like jazz, but they don't. And people don't really know what classical guitar is. When they hear it, they like it, you see. And then there's a thing about somebody telling you all their personal problems and, strumming a few chords, which is... Yeah.
Like the difference between a puppy and a singer-songwriter?
Yeah.
A puppy eventually grows up and quits whining?
Yeah, there's how many Nashville songwriters does it take to screw in a light bulb? 5, 1 is screwed in, and 4 more sit around singing about how much they missed the old one. Yeah. Anyway, those are. Anyway, there's all these jokes. There's my brother sent me an Estonian or bagpipe joke, I think it was, or maybe it was an accordion joke, I forget. Estonian about about when you chop up the difference between chopping up in was it bagpipes or an accordion, I forget, but an Estonian thing say that when you chop it up, the difference is that you only have one crying and 10 chopping, as opposed to one playing and 10 crying or whatever. But that's a banjo joke. Like what's the difference between a banjo and an onion?
Yep.
Nobody cries when they chop up a banjo. Things like that. Perfect pitches when you throw a banjo in a dumpster and don't hit the sides. Things like that. Banjo player was went to a sandwich shop, locked the doors of his car, left the banjo in the front seat. When he got back, the window was broken out. There are 2 banjos in there. So anyway, so I have a couple of banjo students. 3 actually, I guess. And I'm looking forward to in the fall. I will have a banjo student at Co. who's going to take, I hope, 2 semesters of banjo. And I really take. I mean, like, we have a special classification for like extraneous stringed instruments because see, one thing is like I'm weird. The last few people I've had in my position, this is like my 5th or 6th year or something. I've been there. Well, 2002, fall of 2002 is the first time I was there, so this makes it 5
years anyway. Yeah.
So anyway, the other people they had before didn't usually last very long because they couldn't do the. So say you're a classical guitarist, you get your training in classical guitar, and then then the kid who's in the jazz band wants to know, how do you play E flat minor flat 9? What do you do? Well, I do it like here's one. Because as you know, I am like a low rent jazz guitar player, but I don't want people to know that necessarily because I'm afraid they'll stop paying me. I have to get a paper route. So what do you do if a kid, from Japan wants to learn Justin Bieber songs?
Teach him Justin Bieber songs.
Well, that's what I do. But see, that's because I have no shame. And
that's how a teacher keeps working. Teach what they want to learn.
That's right. And then and then we had the ukulele orchestra, and so we had all these ukulele club. So sure, yeah. I didn't get my first ukulele till 1969. I still have it. It's a baritone. So I actually take ukulele very seriously, and I know more about it than anybody would really care to know. And I can be very boring at a cocktail party, I'm sure. So that's the sort of thing I do. The other people didn't last, and so I've lasted, longer than anybody has for a long time there, apparently, in this job. Now they hired me on at Cornell College in Mount Vernon, so I've got 2 of these little gigs. So I have to send my contract in. It says I'm not eligible for any benefits, though. It says explicitly on my contract. I understand that. I am a low-rent adjunct at best. So anyway, but anyway. So to be able to teach banjo on a college level, I'm not going to get paid much. But I get to say I teach banjo in college. I mean,
do you leave it on your dashboard so you can use handicap parking?
You said it, I didn't. But I give you a little leeway. Well, maybe I messed it. I've wasted a lot of time, but I played a couple songs. Come on down to the Northside Bistro, corner of Market and Lynn Streets. I'm gonna start at 6 o'clock on Thursday. I won't tell any jokes, no band-related jokes. I'm not gonna say anything. I'm just gonna play guitar. Maybe this guitar. Oops. Tuscan Moon in Kelowna. Friday, Saturday nights. Make reservations.